Okay, the next segment is going to be about travel preparation and road safety. So basically, I had a emergency kit. I bought a full setup from Amazon, and it had the flares, it had the emergency blanket, and I did actually have to use it. And I was hoping I would never have to use it one day, but I did. I got stuck in snow as a Floridian. I was fairly new to driving in snow, and I went by myself and I got lost and stuck in snow for 6 hours. And I was able to use my warming blanket, and I even had a emergency battery backup. And I strongly feel that you should have that on the road, even if you think it won't ever happen to you. It probably will. The more often you travel, the more likely you will have emergencies. And another thing I want to mention on my list is you need to think about your bathroom breaks, especially if you're traveling alone and you're a female. I go to the truck stops that are well lit. So, like the Flying J is a good example. They're likely to have 24/7 bathrooms. So, if you're doing overnight drives, not every gas station is going to have an available bathroom, but usually almost always the truck stops do, and they're actually really nice. So, that is something to think about. I also, if it's going to be a long drive, like 3 days, I'm going to give an example of when I traveled to South Dakota from Florida. It took me about 3 days. My longest day is usually the first day. So the longer you're on the road, the more tired you're going to be. So I usually start out like with 10 hours on my first day of driving, and then my second day would be 8 hours, and the last day would be six. Because on that third day, you start feeling it. It's just like as if you're working a 12-hour shift and you hit a wall at the end. Um, and you may not even realize it until you stop your car. So that's something you just have to push through and make sure to get the most of your driving on that first day. And another thing, if you are a night shift nurse, which I learned the hard way, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to drive is a horrible idea. I know that you would like to be driving on the road during the daylight, and there's so much more advantages to this, but you're going to be tired. You're fighting against your own sleeping schedule. And I definitely had to pull over and take a nap. So if you are a fellow night shifter, I would recommend just not fighting against it. You can do late checkouts with hotels like the Marriott let me check out at 12, the Hilton let me check out at 2 p.m. And yes, you're driving in the dark overnight. Just be more careful and observant. I usually drive slower in wooded areas to prevent hitting deer and stuff like that. But those are things to think about. Do not fight against your own sleep schedule that you've been doing for several years. And then another thing I would do, there's been more than one occasion where I had no idea I was going to drive through a snowstorm. And that's how I got stuck. And there was a time where I had to drive around a active tornado. And that time I learned and I checked my app, but be mindful. You would have it's amazing how fast weather changes and how unprepared you suddenly notice you are. So constantly, even before you get on the road or when you're at the Flying J or whatever, check your weather as it does change frequently. Another thing I would mention is apps like 360, or make sure to have someone tracking your location. And also look at your phone. When I was stuck in snow, I had an older iPhone. If I had the newer iPhone, I would have been able to use the SOS satellite capability. Like I would have been able to make phone calls to call for help easier. I actually had to climb on a pile of snow or sit on top of my car just to call 911. So those are real things that you need to think about. I also had a newer vehicle with the SOS button, so the police were able to locate my vehicle when I did not have signal. Granted, it took them a long time to find me, and thank goodness I had my emergency gear. Those are things to look into.